Today is our last and final week of our homework series. Who's like this series? Anybody? Okay. It's been one of my favorites, but I think it's just very practical for the season of life I'm in. But good to know that you guys have loved it too. This is our last week, like I said, where today I'm going to be talking about parenting on purpose. Parenting is not something that comes natural to me. It is something I have to work at. I've never met my dad, so I don't know anything about what a father should look like, and my relationship with my mom is not great, nor was it ever. And so I really didn't know what that was supposed to look like. And so my journey to parenthood was really full of fear, and then loss, and then more fear. And they just give you this baby, and then you just take it home. I remember leaving the hospital, and I was like, Cameron, you just walk out with her? They just let you take her? And he was like, yeah, she's ours. I'm like, okay. So I guess we'll just put her in the car then, okay. It's just very odd. You grow this human, and then all of a sudden they're outside of your stomach, and you just take them home and figure it out. And so Cameron and I have had so much learning and so much growing to do, and I know that one of the reasons that he was okay leaving me with this week is because he always praises the parent I am, and not because I'm perfect, but because I'm very intentional in my parenting, and I try and give it my very best and allow God to use me, but I'm also not afraid to admit when I get it wrong. And I think that parenting is a perfect balance of the two, because nobody will ever be a perfect parent, but just owning up to that and being able to self-reflect and alter and change when we're not, that's what gets us there. And so I think we can agree, though, that in 2025, parenting is so much more difficult than it has ever been. Yes, I see all the heads nodding. Everybody is like, yes. It is not easy. Our kids have like old Wi-Fi phones. Like, they don't even have cell service, okay? And I feel like it's a full-time job monitoring these phones, okay? And they're only 10, 8, and 6. So like, Sailor really, like, what is she gonna Google? Like, the worst word she knows is probably like poop. So, okay. But like my 10-year-old, they are learning things at 10 years old that I didn't know about until I was like in college. And so all of a sudden, they're learning it at 10. They're nowhere near emotionally ready to be able to handle any of that information. And they can just Google and look up and search whatever they want about it. And the games that they play, anybody, however old, can just jump on and start chatting with them about anything that they want. It's literally a nightmare. It's a full-time job. I feel like I'm constantly, every night, they turn their phone and I'm going through all their games. Did they download any new games? Did they text anybody? What did they say? All of the things. And we even have all the parental controls. And it still can slip through the cracks. And that's just one aspect of parenting that's gotten harder. But also, I think if we would just take a moment to look at the flip side of the coin, being a kid is more difficult than it's ever been before, too. Because they are growing up faster. And so my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old are having to be exposed to things and learn how to process them and deal with them when their brains and their hearts and their little souls aren't ready to do that yet. Things are expected of them at this age that when I was that young, were never expected of me. And so they're having to navigate things that honestly they shouldn't be navigating. So it's a two-sided coin, because parenting really is harder than it has ever been, but so is being a child. This is where the foundation comes in. Proverbs 22:6. Everybody knows this verse. I promise you do. But it is so pivotal to this sermon. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he grows older, he will not depart from it. We can't always control what our children will build on top of their foundation when we're not there. When they grow older and they leave our house, we don't have control of that. But what we do have control of is the foundation that we lay. And this can go for parenthood or really anything that you're trying to build healthily with Jesus at the center. We can't always control what others will build on top of the foundation we lay for our kids. We can't always control what they'll allow to creep in to the foundation that we've laid for our children. But the one thing that we can absolutely, with certainty, control is the foundation that we build. It matters. I looked up a couple of statistics, and this one, it was done by Focus on the Family, and in 2017, it found that 11%, only 11%, okay, of young people left the church if they had a strong faith as a child or grew up in homes that practice a genuine walk with Christ. Only 11%. So that means that kids that are not just showing up to church, but are watching their parents mimic that at home, a very, very, very few percent are the ones that left their walk with Christ. Okay? And then 89% of those who did leave their faith, they reported that they never truly believed and they didn't experience a strong push towards faith in their families. I don't know about you. I don't want to come to church every Sunday. My kids don't want to come to church every Sunday, okay? They're tired. I get it. They get 2 days off. But guess what? I don't care what you look like. Get up. We're going. You can fight me the whole way there. I don't care. Get out of the car. You can sit in the back row. I don't care if you don't want to go to church on Wednesday night. It's a non-negotiable. Get up and go sit in the back row. Back row's holy too, right? Where are my back row people at? Yeah, girl. Okay, she knows. In 2019, the Barna Group polled adult Christians in the U.S. and found that 65% of adult Christians in the U.S. chose to follow Jesus between the ages of 4 and 14. That's your window, parents. 10 years. Your children will choose to follow or walk away from Jesus with the foundation that you give them between ages 4 and 14. 10 years. That's what you got. And then the last statistic that kind of made my stomach hurt, only 4% of Gen Z have a biblical worldview. That's it. Only 4% of them. Our Gen Z would be our 12 to 27-year-olds, 1997 to 2012. I was born before that. Felt really old when I read this. But then I say that out loud. I think of Diana. When we're in the office, Diana's like, cool, I graduated high school when you were born. I'm like, love you though. But yeah, only 4% of 12 to 27-year-olds have a biblical worldview. That's completely unsettling. But can I tell you something? I see that statistic. I see it. But what we see in the church, reading this, I'm just telling you right now, in our church, I look at our youth group and I'm like, not in our house. I see our kids ministry. I see what our youth pastors and our kids pastors put in. I've gone back there. Even in our nursery, not in this house. Our kids are being discipled. I can promise you that. And so that is the urge of this, for you to get them plugged in and in a place where they can experience Jesus and change that statistic. If not for the world, for your family. We cannot delegate the role of discipler of our children to a ministry. It is not their job. The 3 hours a week that your kids are in kids' church or go to youth group, if you think that's enough to give them a backbone to withstand what they face in that world, man, you're missing it. You're missing it. Kids ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry, it's a supplement to what they are supposed to be seeing and engaging in your home. If your kid takes a vitamin My kids take vitamins every day. I say that like they take them. It's literally like, I'm going to rip your hair out. Take your vitamin, please. That's how it goes in our house. And so, but they take them, okay? They take them. But if your kid takes a vitamin, would you let that be their only form of nutrition? Would you let that be the only thing that you feed them? It's the same thing with kids' church. It's the same thing with youth ministry. Are you going to let those 3 hours a week be the only thing that you spiritually feed your kids? Because they're going to be so spiritually malnourished. And if you saw somebody else's kid walking around, skin and bones, that malnourished, would you just keep walking past? It's not just our job to disciple our children. You can do that for others too. We have to pray that God would remove the blinders from our eyes so we start seeing the spiritually malnourished people that are not just residing in our home, but that are on our kids' soccer team. But that sit next to our kid at lunch on Fridays when we go see them. The kids that live next door that can just jump in your car and come to church when you come. You will know your kids as adults longer than you will children. That blew my mind when I first heard that a few years ago. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Because I feel like every year with my child is 900 years long, but 30 seconds long in the same breath. All the parents know what I'm talking about? Okay, and so then I thought about knowing them for way more years as they were an adult than I would as a kid, because right now just feels so right now with them. And then I'm thinking to myself, that's right. They're going to grow up and get adults, and I'm going to know them way longer as adults than I will as kids. So we have this very small window to grow these well-adjusted, Jesus-loving adults. So we have to quit raising malnourished children and wonder why they ran to the world to get full. Psalms 127, 3-5 says, children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hand. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. If we don't like where our world is at, how about we pick up those arrows and wage war for our futures, for the kingdom, and choose to raise men and women of God? Influence, pour influence into men and women of God. That's how you change America. That's how you enter into the next spiritual awakening. That's where revival happens. I put a family photo up. Trenty, who's on? Oh, it's Jennifer. I love you, Jennifer. Hey. Everybody look at Jennifer. Say thanks, Jennifer. She's going to kill me. I'm not going to have a friend anymore after this Sunday. But, okay, so I put our family pictures up there. Most of you have kind of seen us milling about, spoken to us, seen our kids probably, I don't even know. I'm not even going to tell you what I've seen them do at the church. That way, if you haven't seen them do that, we're solid. But this is our family. I love them. All three of those precious babies were gifts from the Lord. Absolute miracles that we were able to have them. And so just a good-looking group of kiddos. But I put this up there because my kids are similar, right? They're siblings, okay? But they are all very, very different. They have very different personalities. And anybody who has met my kids is looking at me right now like, we know. And thank God they're not all like the third one. We think that too, okay? Love her, but if we had 3 of those, we would not be making it, okay? We're doing good with one. So Sawyer is my oldest. Sawyer Elizabeth, she's my oldest. She's 10. And Sawyer is fierce. She is loyal. She is a caretaker to her core. She is a nurturer, a protector. She's very creative. She is mature. I think she was born a 95-year-old lady. It's okay. Love her for that. These are strengths that the firstborn, bless you, Jesus, help with them. I've got to go do this. And she's on it. You can trust her, okay? She's very athletic. Sawyer is also savage. She is just a fierce protector of her people. Funny story about Sawyer. Callan was getting bullied at school. And we'll get to Callan's characteristics in a minute, and it'll click a little bit better. But Callan was getting bullied at school. And he came home, and he didn't want to talk about it in front of her because he knows how she is. And so he was trying to be real quiet and tell me what kind of day he had at school. And she overheard. And she's in the next room, and she's like, "Who said that? He did that? He did?" And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, I was a little scared that she found out that what had happened. And so I'm like, "Sawyer, it's okay." Like, I'm talking him through that. And she's like, "Nuh-uh. No, we have the same recess. Wait till tomorrow." I was like, "Sawyer, we don't put hands on people. Like, we're not that kind of family, you know, like, let's not just take it down a notch. You go outside and let me talk to him, and I'll handle this, okay?" And so she walks out. I'm talking to Cal, and he's like, "That's why I didn't want her to know." I'm like, "I know, sorry, bud." But the next day on the playground, they have the same recess time, okay? But Sawyer's grade has to stay over here, and Callan's grade has to stay over here. So Sawyer went and round, like, she got all 12 of her little friends, and she's like, "Listen here. My brother's being bullied, and we ain't doing it. So we can only go this far. This is our line. You stand here, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here, and you all watch that kid right there, right the whole time. We're watching him. And if he gets close to my brother, you, like, just say, let me know." I'm like, oh, my gosh. So they come home the next day. Callan comes over from school. I'm like, "Bud, was everything okay? Like, it all smoothed over, like I said, right?" And he was like, and I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, "What?" I look at Sawyer, and she's like, okay. So he seemed fine. She was fine, whatever. I get a call from the teacher. Not Callan's teacher, Sawyer's teacher. She's like, "Hi, Miss Veazey. I'm just calling you. I just have to tell you something." I was like, "Okay." She said, "Sawyer is not in trouble. I just need to start out with that." And I was like, okay. So I'm like, "Okay, well, is everything okay?" And she's like, "The funniest thing happened today. I have to tell you what your daughter did." I'm like, oh, my God. Is it really funny? Like, am I going to think it's funny, or you just think it's funny? And so she told me what Sawyer did, and I was like, oh, my gosh. So I went into Sawyer, and I was like, "Sawyer, did you really do that?" And she was like, "Yep. Let him tell my brother he's going to rake his knuckles on the cement." I was like, okay. Like, maybe next time we could be a little nicer. And she was like, "Oh, he won't do it again." I was like, okay, you're right. He won't. And so that is Sawyer. She is savage, and she is a protector. Now here's my Callan. He's 8. He is Cameron Veazey Jr. He is thoughtful, kind, tender, caring, sensitive. He is so genuine. I told you he pumped my gas. He did not want me to be out in the cold. And so that is why he was getting bullied at school, because somebody was being mean to him. And he didn't want to hurt that person's feelings. I'm like, "Callan, you just stand up to him, use your words." He's like, "Mom, it's gonna hurt his feelings. Like, what if he feels bad about himself if I say that?" I'm like, "Bro, he just said he was gonna come for you tomorrow at recess, and you don't want to say nothing back?" "No, that would really hurt his feelings. I really think that would not make him feel good about himself." I'm like, he ain't mine. And so that's Callan, okay? And then he's so sweet for Valentine's. I said, "Buddy, do you have a little Valentine's at school? Do you need a box of chocolates?" He goes, "Oh, I have a Valentine. I want to get her something." I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll go shopping, and then you can take it to school." And he's like, "Well, she doesn't go to school." And I was like, "Oh, it's a church. She's holy, okay?" And he was like, "No, Mom, she's not at church either." And then I was like, "What? Where else you go?" Like, that's it. And he was like, "No, Mom, she lives with me." And he looked at me, and I was like, "Oh, my gosh, I'll be your Valentine." It was so sweet, and that's Callan, okay? And then there's Sailor. This girl is the life of the party. Like, if you're having a party, you need to invite her, because she's going to be having fun. She gives 0 cares if she hurts your feelings. Her face is very rude, so if you say something and she looks at you ugly, she meant it. She is very determined. If she wants something or wants to do it, she will get it. She is just brutally honest. I mean, she's just Sailor. Like, I'm trying to come up with words to explain her to you. And I'm watching a few of you, like, as I'm explaining this, and you're just like, all you can say is she's just Sailor. That's all I know to tell you. For Valentine's Day, we used to have one of these, but she broke it. That's how much she used it the first time. So for Valentine's Day, I got another one. It's a little party light, okay? It's like battery operated. You turn it on. It's like a little disco light. It makes the room like a disco. And so for Valentine's Day, I put it out just with their gifts and made it like a fun little party thing. Homegirl had this disco light like this for like the last week. Bath time, party light. Like breakfast, party light. Hey, Mom, do you think I can have my party light on? I'm trying to go to bed. I'm like, you're trying to go to bed? No. Like, she lives for the party light, okay? It's her thing. And that's just Sailor. She's a party everywhere she goes. So my kids are all very different, but they are all similar because they are siblings, right? I cannot lead these 3 tiny humans the same. I can't parent them the same way. It would not work, I promise you, because this is what I know. I can look at my son wrong, and he is sobbing, apologizing for stuff I didn't even know he'd done. That's really not even bad. Like, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't change a toilet paper roll. I promise next time I'll remember, I'll do it. You know, like that's Callan. I could tell Sailor that I'm going to beat her within an inch of her life, and she's like, all right, well, that'll take like, what, 30 minutes? What can we, I got something to do after that. Like, she doesn't care. I cannot parent them the same. And as a leader and as a parent, that is a leadership skill that you have to possess, because you have to nurture your children or anybody that you're leading as individuals. You have to nurture their individual callings and God-given talents. Callan, my son, will tell you already, he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is called to be a pastor. He has told his daddy that he will preach from a pulpit, and in a couple weeks, he said, Dad, I'm with you, we're tag teaming it. And Cameron's like, but you don't even know what I'm preaching. He's like, it's fine, I got it. Like, we'll do it. I'm like, okay. But Sailor, she'll probably be something loud and vocal, but probably not a pastor. And then Sawyer, like, she just already wants to be a teacher. She loves helping people and support people. And so they just have these individual callings and talents and giftings, and it's our job to steward those, because we can't see our kids as groups. I can't say, I'm the mom and this is how I parent, so you submit. That's not how leadership works. That's not how a parent works. That's not how being a parent works. Being a parent, you see each of their individual strengths and needs and lead them in the best way that they need to be led. I told you, spankings, Sailor could care less. Like, you take her, like, TV time away for the day, game over. But you say you're going to whip her, she'll be like, can you get it over with? Like, she don't care. And so if you want your kids to grow in their giftings as a leader and as a parent, it's your responsibility to pour into those areas that you see that they're gifted. That's your responsibility. That's your job. Jeremiah 1:4. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart. God sees us all individually. He formed us all individually. And so our job as parents is to individually pour into and lead each one of our children. And I keep saying children because it is on parenting, but here's the deal. And I touched on this a second ago. You have a sphere of influence that's so much bigger than just your house. It's so much bigger than just your own kids, because your kids, they have friends. What they experience at your house is a way that they have a view of what parenting looks like. And I can tell you from growing up the way that I did, the little that I saw of good parenting was sitting around the dinner table at my friends' houses, because it sure didn't come from mine. Your sphere of influence as a parent are the cute little nieces and nephews that fill your home. Because I promise you, they're looking at you in that role, in that light too. They see how you lead. So the biblical definition of godly parenting is this: to be good stewards and guardians of the children God has placed in our care. Parents have the responsibility to care for the spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being of their children. The most important biblical duty of a parent is to teach their children about Jesus in action and in word. Here's the deal. I am not naive to the fact that there are so many different parenting journeys in this room. And I think that that's part of the reason that I'm getting to speak on this week, is because I was not born into being the parent that I am. I came from an extremely dysfunctional home, a home that was full of substance abuse issues, violent, manipulative, all of the things. I had to grow and to develop into the parent that I am. I had to work to be the parent that I am. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, But what I'm saying is that parenthood gets developed. You have to work at it. It's just like everything else. You don't just happen to be a good parent. So you may be a blended family, and you may be learning how to operate on that side of parenthood. Keep trying. You're not going to get it right. You may be a single parent, and there may be days that you are absolutely losing your mind because you are exhausted, you are overwhelmed, you are overworked, and you are still trying to parent on your own. It's okay. Keep trying. Parenthood, you don't arrive. It's not an arrival. It's this constant formation of trying to be better and getting closer and more like Christ. That's it. So if you're awaiting kids, if you're in this season of, we'll have a family one day, or we're trusting for God's provision to have our family, work now. Work now. It's never too late, because there are so many different parenting journeys, and everyone looks different. But it's parenthood, you don't arrive. It's a constant formation of being more like Christ and a better parent, because there is no formula that guarantees success. We just do all that we can. We do all that we can. We get them to church, we grow ourselves, and then we pray and cover and trust that God will do the rest. So there are 3 factors. I'm going to go through these very quickly, I promise. But there are 3 factors that we are going to look at today to remember when we're parenting on purpose, okay? And the first one is the me factor. And this is what I'm touching on now. It goes along with what I was just saying. There is so much to parenting, and we think about parenting our children, right? What they need, how to be the best parent they need, what that looks like for them. But can I tell you the best place to alter your parenting and start being a better parent is when you look at yourself. It's the me factor. You want to be the best for them, you get your life right. If you're in a hard season of parenting with one of your kids, hit your knees. If you're having a problem losing your temper dealing with one of your kids, you let it go with him first. That is the best way that we can shift our parenting and our leadership into alignment with the heart of God for ourselves and our children. It is so much more about you most of the time than it is your child. And so Deuteronomy 6:4-9 says, "Listen, people of God, you must love him with all your heart and soul and might, and you must think constantly about these commandments I'm giving you today. You must teach them to your children and talk about them when you are at home and out for a walk, at bedtime and the first thing in the morning. Tie them on your finger, wear them on your forehead, and write them on the doorpost of your house." Doesn't say put them on your child's arm, tie a string on your child's arm to remind them, write them on your child's forehead. No. It tells you to do that. So until you can operate, step up underneath the mantle of parenthood that God has placed on you and get your life and your heart where it needs to be, your parenting will always be misaligned. We have to get it right first, because here's the key to this. Here's the key. You replicate who you are, not who you wish you were. You can't make your son that mighty man of God that you're speaking over him every single day if you don't rise up and operate underneath that same mantle. If you want your children to be prayer warriors and women of God that rise up and make an impact in homes and children for generations to come, you have to rise up underneath that mantle too. They can't operate in what you wish you were. They operate in who you show them you are. And that's the bottom line. But you know the beautiful thing about that too is when your kids see you get on your knees and say, "Lord, help." They see that too. When they hear you say, "Sawyer, I am so sorry that I just lost it on you. Mommy's been really stressed this week, and that is no excuse for me to have just bit your head off like that. I'm really sorry, and I'm working on it." They don't need you to be perfect. They just need to see you pursue him, because that's what you're wanting them to do. So just let them see you do that. It's funny, though, because a little lighthearted tidbit. when you see one of your kids do something you swore you'd never do, you know? Like, I don't do that. And then you see them mimic you, and you're like, oh my God, my mom did that, and I said I would never do that. Like, Cameron's dad does this thing where like, anytime something's wrong, he's like, no, son, I'm okay, son. Like, no, son, it's good. I'm okay, son. Well, the other day, I heard him do that to Callan. He was like, no, son, I'm fine, son. Everything's okay. Well, the other day, Callan wasn't feeling good, but he didn't want me to know because he knew I was home by myself with all the kids. He was like, no, Mom, it's good. I'm good. And I'm like, you, Cameron Veazey Jr., like, it's just say that you don't feel good. Just tell me what's wrong. No, it's okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. Cameron called that night, and I was like, I'm going to hurt you. Next time you tell me everything's okay in front of our kid, it's on. You know, like, we are not saying that in our family anymore. And so it's those things. They really do. They get it from you. And so sometimes I know I joke and lighthearted, make that funny, but it really is true. They get it from you. So I need to grow because I want to confidently parent out of the overflow of who I am. Ephesians 6:4, raise them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. That means you have to raise yourself up in that too. Raise them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So our job as parents comes down to two things: teaching and correcting. That's our godly job as parents, to teach and to correct. The things that we are teaching: attitudes, actions, and associations. And here's the thing: attitudes. I don't mean how Sawyer has my bad attitude sometimes, because that's a real thing. And Cameron has to work through both of us operating in that attitude at the same time sometimes. So pray for grace for him. But what I mean by attitudes is how we prostrate ourselves, how we operate in and of ourselves every day. What is your attitude when you're facing things, when you come up to things, when you encounter things, going through life? What is your attitude? Then your actions, how you act, and your associations, who you surround yourself with. And if you can get the attitude down, if you can have, I say good, I don't mean necessarily a good attitude, but if you can have a God-honoring attitude, okay, let's put it that way. If you can have a God-honoring attitude, the other two, how you act and who you associate with, will flow out of the first one. So if you can get your heart right, if you can get your attitude in check and have a heart that operates in the right atmosphere, then the other two will flow along with it. So this is the attitude and worldview shaping questions that we talked about earlier, that Gen Z only has a 4% of a biblical worldview. These are these questions that form the foundation of a worldview. It shapes who we think rules the world, why we think it operates, all those type of things. And so by the time your kids are 18, this is pretty much fully formed in them at this point, okay? And these are the questions that as the parents and as the church, we should be answering to shape a biblical worldview. Does God exist? Obviously, yes. How did everything begin? God, he formed it, okay? What's wrong with the world? Sin. We're all sinful people. I hate the question when people come to us and they're like, Pastor, why do bad things happen to good people? Hate to break it to you, there are zero good people in this world. We are all full of a sinful nature. None of us are good. Literally, our flesh and blood, we are sinners. That's it. And so any good thing that happens to us or comes from us is the grace and mercy of the Lord on our lives. And so what's wrong with the world? It's sin. And once they understand that that sin problem is rooted in the evil of Satan, they can understand that the ultimate solution to everything is Jesus. He is the answer to every single problem they will face, every single issue they will have. It's Jesus. But they can't get to that if they don't understand that he created the world and everything began by his hands. And the problem with the world is that Adam and Eve hosed us all. Still bitter about it. Okay? They can't get to the solution being Jesus if they don't understand the rest first. And then it keeps going from there. Who am I? Their identity. I did not grow up in a home that went to church or really truly even believed in Jesus. But because of the society at the time, it kind of just got tucked into me with where the world was. Guess what? It's 2025. Our world is not in the same place. They have people telling them that they can be whatever gender they want to be, that there's a million different gods. You just pick which one you want to serve, that you can be a good person and make it to heaven. And none of those things are true. Who they are is not left up to the world or their friends that they go to school with. Who they are is ingrained in who Jesus formed them to be in the womb of their mother. And they can't get to there unless they understand that God created the world. He made everything. Sin is the problem. He's the solution. And he's the one that created them so he can take care of all the rest. Why am I here? Our purpose. They're never going to understand their true God-given purpose unless they can understand the other things. And their God-given purpose, what are they going to do if you pour sports into them, and then one day they get injured and they can't do sports? Or one day they decide they don't even like sports. You just made them do them. What are they going to do then? Their identity is going to be in the trash. They're going to have no clue who they are, why they're here, why their life matters, what they're supposed to be doing, because it's not rooted in the world. Their identity comes from Scripture. It comes from how they were formed. It comes from the Creator, the hand of God on their life, and nothing else. Am I living a good life? Morality. This is part of the problem with today's society. If I'm just being a good person. If I'm a good person, I can get into heaven. Well, guess what? You're not a good person. You're a sinful person. The only thing that makes you good is God. And so we can be good and live a moral life through God. And that's the only way that you're going to be good. But they don't know that if you haven't given them a biblical worldview and answered all the other questions. What happens after I die? There's a heaven and there's a hell. And it's your choice on which one you go. Bottom line. But guess what? If you've answered the question on morality and why it exists and who they are and why they're here, then they're not going to struggle with heaven or hell. Because you formed every other answer and solidified it in who God is. So they won't struggle there. But if we don't get those things right, if we don't give them that biblical worldview, they're not going to know who they are, why they're here, what their purpose is, what is even after life. So that's our job, is to be the best us that we can be, and not only just shape and show them our attitudes and worldviews, but to help them firmly establish their own. Not just, you're going to believe this because I raised you in this house and that's what we believe. You believe this because it is written in Scripture, inerrant in Scripture, and it's the truth of the one true God who created you, and that is why we operate in it. Not because I told you so, because I hate to break it to you, but in 2025, that does not work with kids anymore. The next is the we factor. If there's one thing that not growing up with a great family has shown me, it's that who we do life with, who we surround ourselves with matters to our children. It matters. In life, there are areas, and in parenthood, there are areas where we have to widen our circle. But there are also areas where we need to narrow our circle. Sometimes as parents, we can shrink our circle down too small or open it up and widen it too much in order to try and protect our children from the pains of life. But in doing that, we're robbing them of the joys of life. Because your kids have to soar to know what it feels like, but they also need to sink so they know what it feels like when they aren't soaring. Because if you catch them every single time they drop, one day you're not going to be there, and they're going to hit the floor and not know how to handle it. So surrounding our kids with people who can hold them up when you're not there, but also encourage and point and instruct in the right direction is so invaluable. Where do we widen our circle? With family. Hear me out on this. I did not grow up with family, so family was a very foreign concept to me, okay? And in all honesty, sometimes family can be hard, and so it's easy just to shrink into your own little family, right? Your own little bubble, okay? But there was a commercial a couple Super Bowls ago, I don't know, and it was funny because it was this mom, okay? And it was a diaper commercial, and there was this mom, and it was her first baby. Okay, and they were leaving the house, and she had the baby on her hip, and she had the diaper bag, and it was packed, and like she had everything perfect, and his little pacifier clipped on him, and she was wiping his hands down, like cleaning them, and then they got out and they got in the car, and then the next clip, she's on kid number 3, 2 are behind her, she's got this one kid, he's only in a diaper, he doesn't have socks or anything else on. She has a Ziploc bag of snacks stuffed in her pocket, and then these 2 kids are following along, and they're at the car shop, and she's got to pay write the check for the car work, and so she hands her diapered baby off to this oily mechanic guy with like black hands, and she's like, okay, hold on, let me, and it's like, I have never felt more seen in my life. My first kid, like, we had 3 miscarriages getting there, and I was so protective, like, I wouldn't even let her go with Cameron's parents, and, like, do not feed her anything that isn't organic. Like, we don't do that, okay? We are strictly an organic family, and I need you to respect my boundaries, and don't give her chocolate, and she goes to bed at 7 p.m., not 7:01. Like, I was that mom, okay? And then we get to Sailor, and, like, it's funny. Even this morning, she's in my office. She dropped her donut on the floor. I was like, 5-second rule. Pretty sure it was on the ground for like 55 seconds, but it's fine. Like, it's breakfast. I got to get ready to preach. Just eat your donut, girl. And so, like, sometimes we can shrink our circle down so small that it suffocates us and our own children. Guys, I'm just letting you know, grandparents were made to ruin your children. It's just the truth. And I say this because I think I have a little bit more lighthearted take on it since I don't have grandparents to give my kids. And so I see Cameron's parents with my kids, and I'm just like, be all the things. Like, let them eat Oreos for breakfast and stay up until 2 a.m. I mean, I'm going to complain about it when you send them home, but can you just do it? Because that is a grandparent's house. Can you just let all the cousins sleep over and, do, I don't know, paint each other's nails that's going to stain them black for 14 days and look like they're rotting off at church for me for the next 4 months? Can you just let them do all that? Because, man, that is what forms memories for your children. That is what forms their core. Those are the people you want pouring into your kids. So when it comes to your family, who cares if it's organic or not, or if they ate the same macaroni and cheese for dinner the entire week they were with them, because they conned them into it. And I can promise you my kid had ice cream for breakfast at least 3 days the week that I was gone. And who cares? Widen your circle. Let your family love your children. Just let them. That's okay, because the more you allow people and influences like that in your kid's life, you're not going to suffocate and choke them out of people who love them and they can rely on later on in life when they can't rely on you for things. 2 Timothy 1:5 says, I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded now lives in you also. Generational faith. Show your kids what you're passing down to them. Show them. Let them see that in your family. I can promise you, from somebody that did not have the ability to give my children that, let somebody else do it. Let them be your family. Let them do it. That's how vital it is. I also want to say, show them what you aren't passing down. I have the unfortunate circumstance of not having contact with my biological mother. For many reasons, it was a hard, prayer-fought, spiritual-fought battle. And in the end, it ended up going no contact, and I'm not going to lie, it's been terrible. I love her, but the damage that she inflicts on my family, I love my kids more than that. I love myself more than that. And so sometimes we have to draw boundary lines, and that's okay. But you have to show your kids the healthy balance of that, because here's the deal. One day they're going to grow up and think all that comes from you is cut them off. You don't like them, cut them out. They don't agree with you, cut them out. And that's not the reality of what it is. So if you have to draw those lines, if you have to draw those boundaries, if you have to shrink your circle on one side of the family or the other for any reason, just talk to your kids about it. Because A, you want them to know that you handle things in a healthy way, and B, you want to know that you always have the ability in your life to protect yourself and your circle. It always comes first. My circle will be protected at all costs. At all costs. And you have to show them that in a healthy way so that they know how to model that too. Okay, we're growing our circle in the local church. This is funny. Luke 2:43 through 44. After the festival was over, pause, this is Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. They were going to Jerusalem for Passover. Jesus was little, and then it ends with them heading back home. But this is what it says. After the festival was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. And then they began looking for him among their relatives and friends. Okay, I have 3 kids. They're a lot. I've heard funny stories about pastors leaving their kids at church and stuff. So far, we haven't done that. What a blessing. But guys, Jesus got left for a whole day, and his parents didn't even notice. That is wild to me. That is just wild to me. But you know, you have to give it to his circle, because Mary and Joseph weren't even worried, because they just assumed that he was somewhere in the circle of people that they were traveling with, and they knew that he was safe. That's your circle. People you don't have to worry about your kids with, because you know they're safe. I mean, granted, please don't wait a day and not know where your kid is. Like, it's a little off-putting, but seriously, they didn't even notice he was gone, because they thought that he was just somewhere in their circle of people, and that they knew that if he was in their circle of people, he was fine. Find the right circle. The local church, it's that circle. I promise you. It's that circle. This is a safe space for your kids, because guess what? The other kids need your kids, and the other parents need you as parents. So the local church is the best place to widen your circle. Where do we narrow our circle? I touched on this a second ago. We don't want to suffocate our circle, but we have to label specific negative influences in our and environments. We can't talk in sweeping, generalized terms, because that doesn't work. The world is bad, so we're just going to stay in our bubble. I'm sorry, but that's literally the exact opposite of what Jesus asked you to do. The entire school system is bad, so we're not going there. Listen, I'm all about private school, homeschool. Like, I support every single choice you make for your kid. But what I'm telling you is generalized statements like that, the entire school system is bad, we won't go there. Stop suffocating that out of your kid and speaking that over your kid. How about we just narrow our circle to these specific influences and environments that could possibly harm them, rather than these generalized sweeping statements? The school system isn't bad. Maybe you just need to have a conversation, because that classroom is not a productive classroom for your kid. The world, although it does seem pretty bad, it's really not that bad. You just need to deal with the places that you let your kids go, or the things that you watch on TV. We're done making these generalized, the world is terrible, everybody doesn't love Jesus, so I can't let my kids go anywhere. We're not playing that. We are the light of the world. We have the Savior hidden in our hearts. Every step you take is ground that you are conquering for the kingdom. But you just better learn to let your kids place their feet in the right spaces, instead of saying, oh, we can't do that, it's bad here. We don't go to school. The school system's bad. No. Just watch where you're placing your feet. So you can narrow your circle in specific influences and environments that you know negatively impact your family. Because what I can promise you right now, With every fiber of my being, I believe this wholeheartedly. The enemy is coming after the next gen. That is the enemy's target, because here's the deal. If the enemy can get those kids and the kids back in youth and the young adults living in your home, that's it. Because I'm just telling you, half of the rest of us, it's like we already gave up. The next gen, that's who's carrying the mantle of Christianity for this world. And so I know with every fiber of my being that Satan is coming hard after your kids. So how hard are you coming against him? John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. That's it. 1 Peter 5:8, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for somebody to devour. He's coming for your kids. I can promise you that. And I don't say that to scare you or overwhelm you or anything of the sort. I say that because you need to wake up and stand guard over your home and your children. So there are instances where you can narrow your circle, specific influences and environments that negatively impact him. The third and last thing, the he factor. Probably the most vital one, the he factor. There is no formula that guarantees success with our kids. And as parents, I know we wish there were. There were so many times when my kids were little, I'm like, can we just have an instruction manual? Like something? There's all these videos that are like, you can tell your baby's cries apart. No, they just scream. I have no clue if that's food or needing a diaper change. And as they grow older, I think I need an instruction manual even more, you know? But we don't have that. There's no instruction manual. There's no formula for success. But we have a God that promises his goodness. And he stands true on it, church. My most favorite verse in all of Scripture, this started when I was in college. One of my very best friends, we would repeat this to each other over and over again in every bad circumstance. If she would text me and say she was having a bad day, I'd text Romans 8:28. If I called her complaining or fussing about something, she'd say, Romans 8:28. And it's still to this day something that I do over my life and even my kids. But it's Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Here's the deal. Even the bad things, even the hard things, have to submit to his goodness, church. Whether that's in raising your kids, a spiritual battle you're facing right now, a financial battle you're facing right now, a health battle you're facing right now, even the bad, the hard, the ugly has to submit to the goodness of God. Psalms 27:4-5. I have asked the Lord for one thing only do I want, to live in the Lord's house all my life, to marvel there at his goodness and to ask for his guidance. In times of trouble, he will shelter me. He will keep me safe in his temple and make me secure on a high rock. He will do that for you, and he does that for your children. Let them see that. Let them know that. Let them speak that own scripture over themselves. The most important thing that we can do for our children, the most important part of this is the he factor. Because even when we fall short, he still can. Even when we miss the mark, he doesn't. Even the things that we destroy or tear down in our child, one day when we wake up and realize that we can't speak that way to our child, it was tearing them down, it was harming them, he can restore it. Every mark we miss, he can make up for. Every single one. He's the most important part in this equation. Get your kids where they can experience God. Get them where they can experience God. Our lives are shaped by the environments we're placed in. And I can tell you this because I came from a broken home. A broken home. I was miserable. I was empty. I was searching. I was longing. And when I had friends who pulled up a seat at the table, or that I would stay the night at their house, or their parents would show up at our basketball games, God put me in an environment where I could see healthy, where I could see happy, where I could see spiritual life. So no experience of God is too small for your kid to find an ounce of hope inside of him. Not one. And let me tell you something. 2 to 3 nights a week, if not every single one of them, we have family dinner at the table. Because as a little girl, that's all my heart longed for. And I didn't even know the power of the dinner table until I had my own family. Because people would pull up a chair for me at their table my entire young adult life. They weren't stupid. They saw the chaos that went on in my home. They saw the brokenness that I carried around. And they continually pulled us up a seat at the table for me. And then one day, Cameron and I were having family dinner, and I just looked at him and started sobbing. And I said, this is it. All those broken moments of a little girl's childhood is redeemed in the eating at the table with your family. Because that's where connection happens. That's where you do life together. We are crazy. We have sports practices and dance stuff and church and all these things. But every night, we sit together at the dinner table. And in our house, we do pits and peaks. Everybody tells us the pit of their day and the peak of their day, because that's how our hearts connect with each other. That's how we know what's going on in each other's worlds. That's how my kids know that no matter what, everything stops for us to connect to each other together, because I care about you, I care about what's going on in your world, and I'm not just going to let us live a passive life where we walk past each other in the walls of our own home. We are a family, we pour into each other, we intentionally connect to each other, and you matter to me. So every day, at least 2 to 3 nights a week, we sit down at the dinner table together, because it's important. It's those little moments. Get them in the presence of God. That doesn't always mean a church service. It just means his presence, even if it's your family around the dinner table. I said this in the beginning. I never want to come off like I am the perfect parent, because I promise you, there are so many things I fail at. There are so many days I go to bed, man, Jesus, if you would have just made me a little more, then I could have been better. But the bottom line is, I don't want you to walk out of here today feeling defeated about your parenting. The bottom line is that God made you the exact parent that your child needed. Maybe it's a parent that needs to submit to the will of the Lord more. Maybe it's a parent that needs to pray a little more. Maybe it's a parent that needs to break toxic habits. Maybe it's a parent that needs to grow or learn or work on different strategies that are effective for your own kid. But you are the exact parent that your child needs. And there's nobody that they need more than you except God. But you're the only one that can get them there. Between ages 4 and 14, church, that's what we have. Those are the years. 10, that's it. If we want our kids, and yes, we want our kids to carry on the gospel and be warriors and just amazing humans that truly change the world for Christ and share the gospel and love Jesus with all their heart. I want that for them. But ultimately, I want my kid to just have a heart surrendered to God so that everything else falls into place. Because if you can get your child's heart in the hands of the Lord, the rest is his. I'm not going to do an altar call today, but I do, Steph, if y'all just come up and play Good, Good Father. they're going to come up and they're going to play Good, Good Father. And just for one short song, you can sit in your seat, you can stand, you can come to the altar if you want. I don't care. But I just want you to soak in what a good, good Father he is to you. Because that's what the rest of it flows out of. So they're going to play this, and we're just going to worship. We're going to tell God, God, you are a good Father. Lord, you are a faithful Father. Lord, you've met me every step of the way. God, not only do you show me how to be a good parent, Lord, but you can make me a good parent. Lord, I'm thankful for the way that you parent me, because now you've given me these kids and I need your help. I can't do it on my own. Lord, I'm thankful for your patient parenting in me. Lord, I'm thankful for the way that you faithfully love me. God, I'm thankful for who you are to me. Let's just worship for a second, church fam.
You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Oh, you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you.
I feel so strongly that there are parents in here operating under, I never had a good example. I don't know how to do this. Nobody showed me. I don't know how to do this. My mom or dad was absent, or my mom or dad was horrible. I never had, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there are parents operating in here under, I can't because I never had. And I just want you to know that that is the most false doctrine that you could ever operate under. Because the second that you gave your heart to Jesus, you became a son or a daughter of the Most High. And that is the only parent that has the authority in your life as of now. So I really just said I wasn't going to do an altar call, but I just feel this so strongly. If you want your parenting to change, then you're going to have to operate in a way that you never have. You're going to have to break that off of yourself. You're going to have to break that mindset off of yourself. So if that's you, I want you to come down to the altar, because I personally want to pray for you. That's something that I have had to break off of my life. I know that not only can you do it, but that you can be an effective, Christ-led parent on the other side. It's possible. You just have to want it. You just have to be willing to break that off of yourself. Because the second that you became a son or daughter of the Most High, that is your parent. That is who you are mimicking. That is who you are taking the lead from. So they're going to worship, and I'm just going to be down here at the altar. If it's 11:52, and if you're in a hurry or you need to go, you are more than welcome to be dismissed. But I just know with all my heart that this is a God-ordained moment, and I don't want you to miss it. Because your parenting won't change until you choose to change it. It won't. You have to love your kids and yourself enough to get down and dirty with God and break it off of yourself and operate in the new. And so that's what we're going to be doing down here at the altars. And I don't want you to miss your moment, because I know today could be the thing that changes it all.
Oh, and I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, because you know just what we need when we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Oh, you are. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. 'Cause you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Yes, Lord. 'Cause you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us.
If you're down here at this altar, from a 34-year-old grown woman, I just want you to know that your children are so thankful that you're fighting for them. Your children are so thankful that you're carrying the heavy weight of parenting like Christ. And I want you to know that as somebody so undeserving of standing on a pulpit and pastoring and leading other humans, I'm here because God raised up godly parents who pulled out a seat at their table. So if part-time parenting from friends' parents can save me, can put me where I needed to be for God to use me, you yielding your home to the Lord is making an eternal impact in your children and in the kingdom of heaven, and it matters. The way that you do the dishes, it matters. The way that you do the laundry, it matters, because they're seeing you do it in dedication to the Lord, and it matters. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to be there and try. That's it. That's all it takes. And for you to be down at the altar, that's proof right there that you're getting something right. You can't hold yourself to the standard of perfection because you'll never attain it. But you can put one foot in front of the other and draw closer to the Lord as you do the same for your children. I wish I would have had a family fighting for me when I was younger like this. And you get to be that for your own children and even others. And so it's just beautiful to see. And I hope you know that the weight of parenting that you carry on a daily basis doesn't mean you're getting it wrong. It means you're trying your best to get it right. So, let it flow from yourself, the me factor. Create a healthy circle, the we factor. And get yourself and your children in places where they can encounter Jesus, the he factor. Thank you, church, for trusting me this morning. Thank you for hearing the voice of the Lord. Thank you for your faithfulness to God, for showing up for him. And I just know that today will be the pivotal moment in some of your parenting journeys, that you'll be able to look back on this moment and say, this is when God shifted my heart. This is when God rooted me in who I want to be as a parent. This is when things started changing in our home. This is when we truly started discipling our children. This is when our attitude shifted and behaviors shifted. I know that that's going to come out of today. And I know that y'all don't all know my story. Some of you do, but I just want you to know, I know Pastor and I have said this so many times, but we are a resource. We are a resource. It's your we. It's your church family. So widen your circle. Don't try to do it in and of yourself. If you want family devotionals to do, I have a great resource. They have they have different ones for every age level. The primary, Sailor does it. It's coloring and drawing, and they just get to follow along with you. And then the next level is, when they're starting to read. And the next level is for Sawyer and Callan, who can look up scriptures on their own. And then they have one for the parent. Like, if there's something that you need that would help you better walk through parenting or on your parenting journey, reach out. Cameron and I will be more than happy to help you. We have youth pastors and a youth ministry. Get your kids plugged in. Get your kids where they can encounter God. You can't make them plug in youth group. You can't make them play the youth group games. You can't make them sing, but you can get them there. Get your kids plugged into Kidsmen. You can't make them do the memory verses. You can't make them play the games, but you, as a parent, can get them to where they can experience and encounter Jesus. That's it. So, if you need resources, if your kids aren't plugged in kids or youth yet, do it. There's no reason not to. So I love you guys. I'm so proud to be your pastors and have the privilege of being a part of your world. And I hope you know that Pastor and I are always for you, forever, forever, forever. And so we just love you. I hope you guys have a good week. I will be praying for all of you this week. And pray for me too. I have 1 week left without my husband. We can do hard things. But I love you guys. Thank you. You guys be blessed.
Thank you guys for joining us for this week's service. If you asked Jesus to come into your heart or you rededicated your life, we want to know about it. So stay connected with us on our website. You'll see it below the screen. You'll go to connect. You'll go to prayer request, whatever it is that you need. We want to stay connected with you. Fill out the connect card with all your information. We promise not to blow up your email with a junk mail or anything like that, or call you or send you out mass text. We just want to know your information in case you need us. We are here for you. So we can't wait to see you guys next week. Please join us.